All right, Saturday, and we are here on this weekend. This is your favorite podcast on KMTV. We are the best from the West. If you put it to the test, we beat the rest. And of course, this is your favorite podcast here this Saturday. Saturday, the first Saturday, right? The second Saturday in March. Oh, what a way, what a way. And today, it is a very, very good show. Oh, that is good program today because we'll be featuring one of the pillars of our politics or political, what would I say, political arena. And he is going to be our special guest today, Professor Alaric Tokpa. He is an educator, and of course, he's also a civil rights leader. And his personified name in Liberian political landscape uh, crystallizes a brand of progressive ideology, walking, talking, and emotionally expressing the ideological construct of democratic ingredients through the halls of the University of Liberia. Professor Tokpa's enormous political influence or experience characterizes him with clout as a voice crying in the wilderness for justice, strategic development, progress, and peace and stability. You do not know about Professor Tokpa, how he garners his strength and resolve to stay above the fray. Moreover, Professor Tokpa is concerned about the rapid deterioration of Christian principles and values in the lives of young generation and those who are trusted with the mantle of authority in state structure and other functionaries in the Liberian society. Many of you know Professor Alaric Tokpa for his eloquence and apparent advocacy for justice, equal rights, and economic opportunity for the voiceless in the Liberian society. The professor believes in the memorable framework of the Liberian Constitution's preamble, which states the dependence on God's divine providence for the Liberian state survival. So then, why is it our homeland's Christian heritage is so cardinal or cardinally significant for survival and progress? The professor here is our special guest today, and he will discuss his personal faith, patriotism, and factors pertinent to moral growth and progress of our beloved land. And I'm so glad here to be with our co-host, Reverend Suarez Dede. Reverend Dede, today is another day. And of course, as we always say, another day the Lord has made, and we will be glad in it. And we are glad to be here with Professor Alaric Tokpa, a renowned politician and advocate for social justice and everything that pain the Liberian people.
Yeah. You so eloquently introduced a professor, our brother, who has been in Liberian politics for years now, from the 70s and university time, student leader at the University of Liberia. From there, he kept his attention on his focus on the Liberian state of mind in terms of politics, social, economic, and everything. And he continues to be steadfast in his advocacy when it comes to what he believes things should be in our country. And he's not afraid to call a spade a spade. He's not afraid to take you on if you go the wrong way. And he's somebody who you can count on. When I say count on, he speaks his mind. He believes in what he believes in. So we are glad to have him as our guest today. This is a wonderful day that the Lord has made. Of course, we are rejoicing and we are glad in it. And I want to welcome you, brother. I want to welcome you for your own hard work. I keep saying this. People who don't know the work you do, I mean, the background work, we cannot explain all of it. I want to thank you too for the attention, the hard work, the dedication, the commitment to make this program what it ought to be. So we want to welcome one of our guests today. We are happy. Please comments. We want to get your comments, your
Yeah.
suggestions, and your views on what we're saying, and call us out if we say something that you don't agree with. Good. That's a democracy. So welcome, Alex. Welcome, buddy. Welcome. God bless you.
Yes. Thank you. All to God, all the glory in terms of democracy. We're going to be talking about democracy in the context of the Liberian arena. That is our politics and our Christian heritage. And also, we'll be looking at where our nation is heading. And I believe that as Christians, we need to be talking about these factors that are so germane to the growth of our country. And so, if you're just joining us, we'd like to say welcome. Professor Alaric Tokpa is here to spill it out. Okay, he's going to say what he has to say. And some of you know him in politics, but he has a lot of good things to say because he's concerned about the young generation, the deterioration of our moral values when it comes to our Christian heritage. So it is something that we need to talk about, and we all will learn from the professor today, from his fountain of wisdom. May I put it that way? Because he has been around for a long time, and so we'll make your voice heard by you making your comments. Opine, that is, write your comments. What is on your mind? You can also write as we carry on our discussion here. And this is KMTV. Once again, we are everywhere. KMTV in collaboration with Gracious Hope Live Podcast. Welcome once again. And without much ado, we are so happy to bring in the professor here, Professor Tokpa. We'd like to say welcome and welcome to our live stream. The audience, global audience watching this program now, they are so pleased to see you here today to share your experience as a whole. So we'd like to say welcome once again.
I am honored by your invitation.
All right, all right. Now, we watched you yesterday, Friday. You deliver an eloquent and heartwarming speech. I called it, Pastor Dede called say you were preaching. He says he's a preacher now. Now, and you said some things that were very, very, what would I say, heavy in a sense. They were very deep in a sense that those things reach to the core of our being as a nation state, okay? And that is starting with the foundation of our country. In fact, if you look at the preamble of the Constitution, it says right here in the preamble, and this is the reference to the ultimate source of authority and motives for writing the Constitution. It says, acknowledging our devout gratitude to God for our existence as a free, sovereign, and independent state, and relying on his divine guidance for our survival as a nation. Now, it goes on right there to say, realizing from many experiences, that is reference to our ugly history, realizing from many experiences during the course of our national existence, which culminated in the revolution of April 12, 1980, when our Constitution of July 26, 1847 was suspended, that all of our people, irrespective of history, tradition, creed, or ethnic background, are of one common politic. Now, if you look at this, you look at right next to that, you see the reference to our solidarity as a people and fraternity, existing or exercising our natural, inherent, and inalienable rights to establish a framework of government for the purpose of promoting unity, liberty, peace, stability, equality, justice, and human rights under the rule of law, with opportunities for political, social, moral, spiritual, and cultural advancement of our society for ourselves and for our posterity, and having resolved to live in harmony, to practice fraternal love, tolerance, and understanding as a people, and being fully mindful of our obligation to promote African unity and international peace and cooperation, do hereby solemnly make, establish, proclaim, and publish this Constitution for what? For the governance of the Republic of Liberia. So we see right there, the preamble tells us that God is the one we depend on for our survival. And it is upon his gracious providence that we have a nation today. So where we are right now, Professor Tokpa, from your perspective, where are we as a country now?
Let me thank you once more for the invitation and thank your audience for the honor of listening or coming to paying attention to what I have to say today. As you've just read, the preamble of our Constitution is very clear about the religiosity of the background of this country. Many have commented that, of course, Christianity was devised to be able to deceive the black people, the poor people of this world. Those concerns cannot be ignored, because I know for a fact that Christianity has been misused in so many ways. Christianity was a peaceful arm of colonialism. There's no question about that. But religion is a private matter. When religion is elevated to the level of a constitution, it becomes a matter that the state has paid attention to. When that becomes the case, then we find ourselves on obligation such that it becomes imperative for us to insist on the need not to misuse the name of religion. It has been said that because many people are religious, there's a tendency for the political class to use religion to woo the people, to deceive the people. That is very true. In contradistinction to what the preamble says, the practices in Liberia are satanic. For instance, look at the correlation between the rise in racialistic killing and the drive towards election 2023. It seems as if the closer we get to election, the more human beings are killed. Biblically, what did Saul do in 1 Samuel? He turned to the witch of Endor. He wanted to console his family because God had turned his back on Saul, the first king of Israel. It is not possible for a witch to use the power of God to summon a prophet of God. When you summon a familiar spirit, that is a demonic representation of somebody. So when he assumed that something had appeared, it was a familiar spirit that brought a message of his doom. And he was informed that he was going to die. So for all those who are consulting witches and killing human beings thinking that they can derive power from the extraction of human parts, you are doomed.
Yes, yes. And that is very touching because we are all concerned about human sacrifice in our homeland. It means that if we look at just, because the preamble says one God, said not God, so God, G-O-D, capital G. And so if people are engaging human sacrifice from those that are trusted with state power to those in other functionary of society, then that is a big problem. Do you think that is also a contributing factor to the lack of progress in our country?
Undoubtedly, because that's false consciousness. Rather than paying attention to the state of security, the obvious, human beings need water to drink. Human beings need electricity, they need light. Human beings need for their children to go to school. They need food to eat. They need shelter. They need good homes. They need employment. They need work. They need to be supported in the post-war period so that they can engage the soil to produce. They need to engage in trade. The enabling environment needs to be created for people to have the possibility and empowerment to engage in trade, very useful trade. Unfortunately, when you study the trade regime in Liberia, you found that the foreign community, international finance capital, is in control of this economy. And Liberians are beggars in their own economy. Liberians are slaves in their own economy. So they are all interconnected. If you do not pay attention to what you are required to do as a government administration to move your country forward, you will find all kinds of false ways to continue to establish your reign. And unfortunately, that is the wrong path.
Exactly. I take interest in something you said. We just need a little clarity on that, and then we can move ahead. I heard you saying people use religion to woo people. People need a little clarity to see if you can go a little in depth of what you mean about that, using religion to woo people, maybe in the direction, so that people can get the clarity of what you're really saying. Did you hear me?
Yes. If I understand where you're coming from, if the Bible is clear about what we need to do, why do we preach what the Bible is saying and do the exact opposite? And there's a tendency for people to believe what they hear. That is why it is dangerous to believe everything you hear and everything you read. The message may be correct. It will take you on account of the message. Then we hold you responsible to link what you're saying to what you practice. What I'm saying is that because of the power in religion, there's a tendency to use religion, say many Liberian people, for example, as very religious, to use religion to pretend that they are on a godly path, while in practice, they are on a satanic path. And in this battle between Satan and God, you cannot deceive yourself. If you're not for God, you're not for God. You for Satan, you for Satan. But be ready to bear the consequences of your actions. The problem, the satanic rulers of this country are not being made aware of the consequences of their actions. And that is why when you see people like us standing up today to become part of the medium of exchange of information for our people, is to be able to debunk their very activities. Why is it some of these very people who were walking among the common people yesterday and pretending that they were for common people, today do not even say hello to their very friends who voted for them? Why is it, as I said yesterday, they ignore the fact that there are many children who voted for them who are still living in graveyard? The feeding of those children on a daily basis is not necessarily a solution to the problem. You got to take them away from that environment. Because in the first place, the DDR program in Liberia was not successful. I was a part of the terminal evaluation of the UNDP program in Liberia, UNDP Liberian government program, in the first decade of the new century. The country was not totally disarmed. They were not totally demobilized. They were not reintegrated. Some of them were just reinserted into communities with a rehabilitation. And that is why they have become a threat to the society today. Why should we be afraid of the criminals? I said, when I move into the community and I park my car on the outside, people say I had to take my car to parking lot. And I said, who should be afraid of whom? I should be afraid of the criminals, or the criminals should be afraid of me. So I parked my car, and the very night the battery went. And we had that interaction all time until I stood my ground. My car started to park in my yard, and community people started begging me to park their cars in my yard. I said, I'm not responsible if anything happens to your car, but you're welcome to park your car in my yard. I'm just saying this to suggest that if it is possible for government to stand up to the criminal community, if it is possible for the community to stand up to the criminal community, it is possible to be able to throw back some of the bad behaviors. But it is not as simple as that. When you have a society in which there are criminals in every school, in every community, in every institution, it is an issue. To solve that problem, you got to look to the history of the country. You got to look to larger concerns, the control of the economy, the government establishment, the government administration. When government officials are bringing in drugs into this country to fool our children, to continue to deceive them, to support them, to destroy our children, then it is a larger issue. It is much more than just 1-2 persons taking advantage of their possibilities and protecting themselves in a community. We're talking about the protection of a whole society. I'm just giving an example of the extent to which it is possible to be able to stand your ground in certain situations. But you have to be able to bear some pains, because my car windshield went at one point in time. People were trying to enter the car to mess it up. Several times my battery went, and so many other things happened. But I kept my car in my yard.
Professor, you gave a very strong, what should I say, allegation or accusation of government officials bringing drugs into the country. That is a strong one.
We hear that in the media all the time, and we hear that from sources that are reliable. If they are not bringing drugs into the country, let them explain themselves. Why is it that it's impossible to stop the drug trade in Liberia? Who's bringing the drugs in? The users?
And that
Obviously not.
that is very troubling and is a very major problem. And you alluded to a program for rehabilitation.
I said recently that matter is being investigated. We'll get the information. We are going to release names of the officials that are bringing drugs into Liberia.
Okay. Yes, you alluded to the rehabilitation of those who fought in the war. They were disarmed and they were given some incentives, buying guns for money or whatever they had to appease them. And that, according to you, that program did not work out.
You.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Are you hearing me? Reverend Dede, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Off and on back in. You talking about rehabilitation?
Yeah. You alluded to some of the fighters in the past.
You're breaking, but I can hear you off and on.
Okay, good. Some of the fighters during the past conflict that during the war, his streaming gone off the line. But if you're just joining us, this is the Gracious Hope Live Podcast. We are here with Professor Alaric Tokpa, an educator, civil rights leader, and of course, he has been in the political arena for years. He was a student leader, and later on, he in fact was a vice presidential candidate to Cletus Watterson at one point as part of the coalition that later on broke out during the past election between Charles Taylor, Liberia former president, and some other political parties. And he has been around for a long time. And so today, the reason why he's appearing is to talk more about the progress of our country, looking at the progress, or looking at some other factors such as our Christian heritage and how our country is now faring, as well as the future of the country. And he appeared on a news conference yesterday in which he expressed concern about the young generation and the deterioration of our moral values. And so he is concerned about that. And as we all know, this program is all about talking about contemporary issues that affect the Christian faith. We talk about matters that concern you, that are biblically based with God's truth, absolute truth. And Reverend Dede, he unveiled some things here about and some accusations regarding how some government officials are complicit in bringing drugs into the country to harm our young people. That is so disturbing.
Indeed, it is, and that's why I went back on it so that you elaborate a little bit. But his source is the media, because Professor Alaric Tokpa will not just utter things that he cannot prove or give reasonable sources for what he's talking about. And he said he heard it from the media. And what I hear him saying, if that's not the case, then let them explain themselves. But I don't know if the media name names. I have not come across that story yet. But I know he quoting the media and the rest of that. Maybe we got to do a little follow up on the Liberian media and see which media reported that, and maybe we can take it from there. But it's a serious allegation when government officials are bringing.
And we are also doing some research on this.
Wonderful.
If we come by the news, we'll release them.
Great. It's a serious allegation, Alex. When we hear that government officials are bringing drugs into the country, that means it's intentional. And if it's intentional, why are you bringing drugs into the country? Is it for JFK or for other use in the society. And
To
if
stupefy
that's
our children, to stupefy our children and grandchildren.
wonderful. So if that's the case, then it's something that needs serious and intense investigation, because we don't want to just throw allegations around. We want to make sure those government officials or these government officials are brought to book, because they're destroying the minds of the youth. The people who should be leading the country tomorrow, their minds are being destroyed and polluted by these drugs. So it's something to really investigate, Alex.
It is. And I remember we had
Let me
Stan
just say
Peabody.
this.
Go ahead.
Let me just say this theoretically. Any time in a post-war situation, if you see the persistence of crime, like armed robbery, drugs, and what have you, more likely than not, state officials are involved.
That's a serious thing. That's a serious thing.
It is.
That's a
So
serious thing.
from your experience so far, I mean, you
You
grew
should
up
not
in the
even
70s.
romanticize it. You should not even romanticize it. Because why is it that they have not taken the fight against drug very seriously in this country? Why are they not taking the fight very seriously?
Mhm.
If they're not benefiting from it. When the allegation was made in the media recently by people in the communities that Mr. Jacques Klein is a leading trader in the selling of dead bodies to fishermen, why is the government not explaining itself in that regard? Why is the government hesitating to clarify these things?
And
Why is the
who
government
is
not
this
even making
Jacques
serious statement about the rape issue in this country?
Klein?
The rape of 2-year-old. Is it not true? Sorry?
Yeah. So
What?
from can you hear me very clear?
If you are hearing me, I'm saying, why is the government not making clarification of the rape issue in this country?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
serious question.
That's a good question. That's a very serious question. And just as we, did a whole series on human sacrifice in Liberia, some months back, we are hoping to follow up on that, because one of our guests who appear on
Are
our
you hearing
program
me?
here.
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Yes,
We're hearing you,
yeah,
Professor.
yes,
We're hearing
yes.
you. Yeah.
A few weeks ago, Stanton Peabody, he also said that yes, he made mention about even dangerous narcotics that were entering the country and affecting young people. So when he said, when we're talking about those we term the Zogos, let us not forget that they are not just drug pay money all by themselves. The drugs are coming from somewhere. So it is something that I believe that we all need to be talking about if we want to see our country survive in the future. That was a technical difficulty that he's having right there. But I was hoping that he will he's logging back in. And I was hoping, Professor Tokpa, if you can hear me, I was hoping that you will somehow if you can somehow give your perspective on all through the years you've seen leaders come, leaders go, and all of our leaders, all of our presidents. When I say leaders, I mean from the presidential level, in the legislature, in the judiciary, they are predominantly Christians. They profess to know Christ, and they have a membership in churches. Some of them serve on boards. But if you look at public policy and its implementation, we see that our country is not progressing as far as other African countries that we see today. In Liberia, given its history, is the oldest independent African country. So my question is, what is really going on here? Is it a compromising of their faith in our duty as public officials or in other functionaries? What is your take on that?
But governments operate on economic principles. When the economy is good, the politics is good. When the economy is bad, the politics is bad. The government does not have plan. It will operate on expediency. It will become aimlessly distracted. Such as the weird government, it came to power without plan. When the young people asked me in the early days of the government, I said to them, government like this do not operate on plans. And it came to pass that the government did not have any plans. When people insisted, before they evolved a policy, because the media had lifted a phrase from we speech, but they don't even understand what proper policies are. Those are policies that exist in other kinds of countries and what they just took it and assumed it was just easy to implement when they don't have the correct ideological mindset. It is a question of principles. When you don't have the correct ideology, the correct principles, the correct plan, and a will to implement, it is impossible to move ahead with any correct project in a country like this.
So then what will you tell those critics who always criticize the progressive? They have all of the ideologies they talk about, they eloquently express how government is corrupt and how government is not doing what the people should be experiencing. But at the end of the day, the progressives are out, and those who are in power or in the authority are far away from those progressive ideologies. How do you reconcile that? In other words, some people say, well, politicians, they just talk, 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 talk. They don't do anything tangible. What do you tell those people? Or what will you say is the difference between having the ideology or concept about implementing certain things, but it
Well,
is
we
not
out of
work or
electricity here. If you can't see me,
electricity is gone.
if you see my
Wow.
background, I'm out of electricity here.
We
We
can
can
we
hear
can we
you.
can see you. We can still see you.
We
In
can
the
still
back.
see you a little
Yeah,
bit, but you can talk. You can go ahead.
yeah. It's
Did
the
you get my
voice we want.
question?
The voice and the contribution we want. Yeah. It's just unfortunate, really. It's just unfortunate we can see live
I will,
the issue of electricity.
I will tell them, I will tell them to give the progressives power, because it is said that practice is the criterion of truth.
Hmm.
Give us power and see what we'll do with it.
Hmm.
But they be
But
experimenting with our.
yeah. Go ahead.
You cannot experiment with a country. These liberal democratic market principles they're experimenting with do not help Africa to move forward. They should have known that by now. But how many of them understand the political economy of Africa? Even the political economy of Liberia or the politics of the international economy? Hardly any of them. So if they want to see the capacity of the progressives to deliver to our people, let them give us power. Why do you think some of them are very afraid to allow genuine progressives to come near them when they're in power? Because there will be policy differences. We do not agree on the way in which people have controlled Liberia. Of course, we have different ways to control our country. We are able to draw up programs and work with our people in this country to be an example of serious development in Africa. The opportunity we find for ourselves. We don't need people to give it to us, because we're going to make sure that Mr. Weah will be given a red ballot. You will be made a one-term president. Political parties in the opposition are coming together. We are coming together. A broad alliance is being formed in Liberia, and you will hear that very soon.
But the whole thing about coming together, a coalition, we know there was a coalition together, and then later on, they all broke out because of ego, personal ego got in the way. The Christian values and principles we are talking about was never put into practice, and there was fragmented argument about who should do this and who should do that. So the Liberian people are very apprehensive to give even any political authority to those who have been arguing using ideological considerations. What do you tell those people?
Maybe it's frozen again.
Can you hear me?
I think
Yeah.
there's some technical issue back with his
Yes.
internet. Yeah.
Yeah. Technical issue.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just to add to that, Alex, we see the Mr. Cummings I mean not into sorry in court right now with this with the Rick Moreau amongst them, and so If you're talking about coalition coming together again, Liberians might not even take it seriously because the one that they had, it kind of failed and crumbled. So people might not want to take any heed to that. And then talking about progressives, Liberian will say it, progressives were around, they were those surrounded him with the progressives, and things did not go as they should have been. So there'll be a lot of kickback or a lot of opposition to that comment, because we want to be clear and frank with the discussion today. People have the different views on progressives. Some feel progressive feel the country, and progressive have to clarify and explain why they did not, or they don't feel that maybe let the country down, or they feel the country by their own in fighting the rest of that. So that is a serious call that people will really challenge, Alex, that will challenge.
Yeah, we have evidence. Even the coalition that should have rallied around Cletus Watterson. I remember there was a coalition that came together against Taylor's NPFL, MPD, his political party
Yeah,
of the
NPP.
MPP,
Mm-hmm.
and they splintered into various areas, and they broke up, and they could not even support Cletus Watterson at the time. Now this new coalition that came together with Mr. Cummings, Benina Ure, and the Liberty Party, UP, crumble again,
Unity
and so
Party as well. The Unity
Unity
Party too.
Party.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be challenging for those who believe in progressive ideas or concepts in forwarding our country when it comes to development and growth. They will have to do a lot of convincing. And if you're just joining us, I would like to say welcome to the Gracious Hope Livestream Podcast. We have our special guest, Professor Alaric Tokpa, who is facing some technical difficulties right now. He was on, but electricity um, cut through, and so he couldn't come back on. And that is the situation in our homeland. The electricity is not stable. I know they are trying their best to do everything by providing at least an ounce or here and there for them, but it is not all areas. And so our guest was on, but he had to somehow leave because the electricity, went away.
Yeah.
But we are discussing, and we're going to get to the other nitty gritty, some other tough questions that I had, but he couldn't continue because of the problem, electricity problem. But this is how it is, because he talked about drugs being flowing into the country, and the young people. He's worried about the young people future, the young people's future, and how will we have a nation or a country that is viable in the future when the young generation is being drugged and deprived of some of the principles that we're talking about upon which the country was founded, those values, the Christian values and principles. And it's going to be a tough one, Reverend Dede.
Yeah, certainly. And he talked about the political economy, and I really wanted him to explain that a little bit, because not everybody understands what this political economy is, and he also mentioned you cannot experiment with government. That's true. So what does it mean to experiment with government? Is it trial and errors? Is it trying one thing, and then if it fails, you try the other one? Everybody, one of us are gullible. Human beings are gullible, so there will be errors along the way. But if the errors are not intentional, and there are intentional efforts to correct the errors, that's what we want to see in our leaders. So, but if we don't see the intentional efforts to correct the errors in the society, in the government for good governance, then we say our government leaders are not paying attention to what the needs in the country are. And right here on air, we see the issue with electricity. I would not say government is not trying. I saw some videos the other time. The president lighting street lights. I mean, those are good things. But if people are not getting electricity in their homes, a glaring one we just saw, then the social life of the people would not be a quality life of the people. So while we see the government is making effort in other ways, we're not government spokesmen here, but we just want to be honest with ourselves. But there needs to be serious, constructive efforts in making sure that the society get social structure and they need water, light, and the rest of that, so that their way of life can improve to a large extent. Other than that, people keep criticizing the non-effort of the government, when the government From what we see sometimes on videos around, the government is making its own effort, but are the efforts substantive enough for people to benefit? That is the question, Ellis.
Yeah, that is a question, and there's a lot of puzzling things that we heard today, and I know he had more to say, and we have a lot of other questions too to ask. But we are so disappointed that the electricity problem. He texted me just now stating that he's trying to get in, that is to come back in the studio, but he's not being able to for the same reason of electricity, and hopefully he's asking if we could redo this. Sure, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Because we still like to hear from you.
But Ellis,
Okay, so
if
go
we
ahead.
redo the show, we don't have the same problem because who knows if we'll be the same problem. But we can
Yeah.
always redo the show because he has a lot to offer, and we have a lot of follow up and questions we really need him to comment on for clarity for our people. So we hope we can have it again because we're missing a whole lot right now from his absence.
Yes, we'll be right back. Please don't go away. Okay, this is KMTV and Gracious Hope Bible Fellowship podcast here this weekend. And of course, our special guest couldn't continue. He started off very right, but electricity was nowhere around in the middle of the program, so he had to go. Hopefully, we'll get him back here to talk more about our homeland, the Christian heritage, and peace and progress or stability in our homeland. And I'm here with Reverend Suarez Dede. Reverend Dede, we look at our country today. We see some progress here and there, but we should have been a country, and I'm not just talking about this government, but we have had previous governments. And when it comes to progress, the road network or and making it more accessible for farmers in the hinterland to carry their goods to other cities. We don't have a complete road network connecting the entire country that is so smooth. We have the problem of we have the problem in our education system, where we have a whole generation of young people growing up in state-funded school without learning anything about God. We also have some problems in our healthcare system. Uh, we just heard that the entire hospital in Buchanan, Grand Bassa County, was burned to the ground, and the President Weah, was there to visit the scene to uh, maybe provide funds to rebuild. And hopefully, we hope and pray that the people of Buchanan will be able to breathe on air if a new hospital is rebuilt by this government. And we look at other areas, which, of course, has to do with security, where crime rate is very high, ritualistic killing going on, rape, and a lot of other things going on. And some other people will say, well, that society, crime happy everywhere, and that society is. But if you look at crime happening without justice being avenged to the perpetrators, then that is a problem, Reverend Dede.
Yeah, that is a problem, Ellis. That is a serious problem, and it, to be honest to our viewers, it saddens my heart when we have to name all of these different things that are happening in society, that we don't see any concrete investigation by the police apparatus. We believe the law enforcement are also Liberians, and we don't doubt that they have interest in making sure that culprits or perpetrators are brought to justice. We don't really doubt that, but we look to see concrete actions. John Tuckman died, William Tokpa III died. I'm not even died, but murdered in their homes. And this immigration woman whose name can come to mind now, she was murdered in her home. And as far as I know, we have not seen any investigative report and the results of that late given to the society, to the media, to know what has been the outcome of these investigations. We don't want to take anything from the state apparatus when it comes to security. We know they mean well, but we want to see some actions in this situation. Well, we heard about this young man torn cut from his mouth. What has happened? We've heard about rapes and the rest of that, of babies and the rest of that. What is happening? And these news are disturbing, to say the least. When we hear these things and we don't see any follow up investigation from the police and who's all responsible for a long period of time,
Yeah.
it is disturbing. We're talking about the time, the length of time it takes to investigate a matter. If someone tongue is cut from the mouth, what happened? If a baby is raped, what happened? If a 15 years young man rape a 13-year-old person, what happened? These are things that are bothering the people. So when people speak about these things, it's not that they don't like the government, but these are issues that the government will have to really pay attention to. And listen, I'm not saying that the government is not paying attention, but we don't see the concrete actions in terms of investigative report and the outcome of these investigations. These are things that people want to see, to know that the government is working diligently to lay all these things to rest. To rest, we heard about rape in the Liberian embassy. I think it was in Nigeria. We don't know the outcome of that. What happened for that rape? So these are legitimate concerns. And most
Yes.
times, when you see people criticizing these things, government supporters will say these are people, they are disgruntled and they want to see the government down for the criticizing the government. Of course, the government needs to be criticized to see where the issues are. Government are not perfect people. No, President we are not perfect. I believe he's trying his best. He will not see everything. So it's from the advocacy, from people seeing these things, that he will say, oh, okay, now I see what's happening among my people. Let me get involved and fix the situation. The president is a human being. He has his own emotions. And I'm sure he gets unhappy when all these criticisms come. But Mr. President, your people really got to get down to the basis. They got to face this issue and help you succeed. Now, we're talking about the hospital in Buchanan.
Buchanan.
Yeah, got burned. Why? Is it arson? Was it an accident? What happened? We need to know these things. But on the good side is I follow a broadcast, a live broadcast of the dedication of dialysis. I think connected to JFK, which is a good thing. We have people in Liberia that have diabetes, kidney issues. They need dialysis, and I'm glad. I want to commend the government for that, with their partners for that. We will commend the good things, but we will call all the bad things, because why we are Liberians. We might not be
Yeah.
home now, but we still love our country. At least we still love our country.
And we have one of our listeners here saying Liberia's problem is not teaching kids the Bible, or rather, our main problem has been the very Christians who have served as leaders. From the president down, all been Christian. Now that we have a quote unquote pastor as a president, the case is even worse. Our main problem, I think, is a holistic consideration of all faiths in Liberia. Christian leaders have failed us. We need to try people from other faiths.
Did he say the president's a pastor? I don't know that.
No, he said now we have that his opinion. He said the pastor, because President Weah gets on the pulpit from time to time and share what is on his heart. So that's why he's trying to characterize him as a pastor. He is saying that Christian leaders have failed because all our leaders have been all Christians, and our country has not gone to where it should be. That is when it comes to tangible progress, but it's all
Mhm.
infighting, war, conflict, and we are like recircle. Like it's like a recircle syndrome.
A vicious
So for
cycle.
him,
Mhm. Mhm.
Imam Janika Toure is saying maybe it's time to have a Muslim leader. But to me, change does not only depend on who is the president, though. I think change has to do with you. Change starts with you. You can start change from right in your family life, your community life. You can do something from your community level until up to society. So when we're talking about change, changing the nation for progress, tangible progress in Liberia, where we have experienced war and all sort of pandemic, it is time that we have to look within ourselves. What are we doing? It's good to criticize. It's good
Mhm.
to say all the worst thing that is happening, things that we are lack of. But then the question goes back to you. What are you doing in your
Exactly.
immediate environment? What are you doing to
Exactly.
bring progress or change in our society? You see,
Exactly.
and for me, I'm not really a fan of me depending on government to bring change. You know why? Because
Mm.
my allegiance is not to government, my allegiance is to God, the sovereign God. That's our constitution. We are obligated to obey that. The constitution says from the beginning that only God is the one who's established a free sovereign state, and based on his divine grace and providence that we survive. So in order to survive, I must first turn horizontally, right? No, vertically.
Vertical,
Vertically
vertical, yeah.
first.
Mhm.
Then
Mhm.
before I turn to my brother and my sister with
Yeah.
love and compassion and kindness and patience and learn how to forgive. Because some people all through the entire war, people who harm their family members up to now, they haven't forgive them.
Mhm.
And they whine and they want to do everything possible to avenge that, and they need justice. And I totally get it. Okay. But we cannot rehabilitate the entire country and say, well, it's all on the shoulders of the government. Government is not government. Just is just an actor. It's just a structure that is put there by your vote to implement the law. So when we talk about government, the definition of government is legal force. That's what it means, legal. Okay, they implement to protect you because you put them there to create an enabling environment so that investors can come, the economy can grow, so you can work and get paid and take care of your family. They then provide you rights to have your own space, your own land. So those are all constitutionally mandated duties and responsibilities of the government. So the government, they are human beings like us too, yes, but they are not there to spoon feed you everything. So when we're talking about change here, tangible change starts with you, with me. You see? And so that's a mentality or attitude that we all should develop from now on. So it's
Mhm.
not a matter of who is in the executive mansion, it's a matter of who you put there because it is your vote. I'm
True.
going to
True.
I'm going to
True.
soapbox here, but
Yeah.
that's how it is. That's how
Yeah.
I see the
Mhm.
reality.
That's true. But the thing, Alex, is the government has a pivotal role to play, a big role to play. Like for
Mm.
instance, you talk about the agricultural sector initially in passing. Now, you need farm to market roles for the people to take their produce from the
Yes.
farm to the market. So who's going to make and provide those infrastructure? It's the government. Yes, the community can come together and build their own role or self-help projects, but the government facilitates, the government gives the wherewithal for the people to do what they have to do. My disappointment is when you call out these things, people in the government or some people in the government will start to attack you and calling you different names because you're trying to call out this issue. You don't call out issue because you want to be antagonistic to the government. You want the government to improve. Remember, we had Reverend George on this program. He visited Liberia and he mentioned paying $75 at the airport for I think coronavirus test and the rest of that. And then we had it. Some of the comments we heard was, "You guys sitting in America and just criticize and the government needs money to have the test." Yes, Josh want to ask a simple question: what is this $75 used for? And it was a big issue. I mean, there's nothing written to clearly explain, as you do, a sensible person would do. Okay, the $75 is for X, Y, Z, so that those who don't know will be informed and even want to encourage the payment. But it was a big issue when Reverend George raised it. They criticized him. Oh, you sit in America and you do all kind of thing. The money is used for X, Y, Z. That person who is receiving the $75 at least should be able to clearly, succinctly, eloquently explain what the money is for. So we educate the people who come into the airport and leaving. Now,
Mhm.
besides that, we're talking about infrastructure and light. We just saw the light going off. That's what we lost our guests just now. It's clear. It's no secret. The issue is there. So don't get angry when people criticize you or call out this issue, but rather try and fix the issue so that the issue can be resolved. We have a problem in Liberia, and our problem is us, Ellis.
Mhm.
The former president of Liberia, Benedict, vice president, said the problem of Liberians is Liberians. And that's true. Benedict Warner cut it to the chase. The problem of us is us. We sing praises to our leaders when we know they're making mistakes from time immemorial to now. And this is our problem. Criticizing the government does not mean you don't like the government, but you want it to be better. But then on the flip side, Ellis, our leaders promote that. If you criticize them, you tend to be their enemy. So it's a difficult situation to deal with as we find ourselves as Liberians who love our country. We'll keep talking and praying and
Mhm.
hope that the government will see reason in understanding why the advocacy is always about, not to tear anybody down, but to see us growing as a nation state, as a people who have come a long way, one of the oldest states, independent states in Africa, to show the light in darkness. That's why we are all about Ellis, and that's supposed to understand where we come from.
Yeah, yeah, and I totally agree. The government has its constitutionally mandated duties and responsibilities to carry out, and they should do so to the fullest when it comes to managing the coffers from taxes and other revenues that that the government should be using for developmental purposes. But again, our guest, Professor Tokpa, he mentioned about policy. Policy is important, and that's where the ideology come in, because without the idea, the concept of developing a policy and squarely looking at what you want to implement this policy for, without the plan, then you will fail. And so, if we want to see our country, develop to the point where everybody is giving an equal share to have the opportunity, whether they learn a trade or career on the much lower level or community level or at a university level, to have a job, ready for them when they're done. If those things are going according to plan, yes, we'll have a viable economy and we'll have people working for their own money, and people don't really have to go and take other people's stuff you know and so both the economic development goes hand in hand with the same as having a stable country where everybody can feel safe as a whole. And
That's true.
most of those people who commit crime, I'm talking about, like, burglary, robbery, um, they are young people. They don't have anything to do. They don't have anything to do. They don't have any guidance. And so they resort to doing those things because they need money to take care of themselves. When no job, that's what they do. And it is a problem.
It's a serious problem. Like we talk about the issue of the Zogos. These are young people in the society. Did we let them
Mhm.
down? That's the question we should ask ourselves. Did we let them down? Some of them are ex-combatants. Professor Alaric Tokpa mentioned that. These are people who fought war. The disarmament process did not go through as it should have been. So
Mhm.
these guys were not disarmed and totally rehabilitated. So maybe this is
Yes.
a question. So then we feel them. So some extent, yes, we feel them. Okay, but does that give them the reason to just cause problems sometimes? No. So we have to give and take to be able to face ourselves. This is our part of our issue. If we did not properly and rightly prepare these young people to be reintegrated into society, we blame ourselves for that. So what
Yes.
is the government doing now? I don't know to the extent to which Senator Dillon program goes. So I'm not going to go too much in that until we maybe have him on this program to explain his own involvement in rehabilitating the Zogos and reintegrating them in the society. That would be
Hmm.
another program for itself. But the point I want to make is that we have failed ourselves, and Ellis is making a point, and I kind of agree to that. We have failed ourselves to a lot of extent by overlooking things, not paying attention to things, and then it blows out of our hands, and then we complain. Let me give an example. I go back to the issue of these quote unquote, I hate to call them Zogos, but that's the only name I call them unfortunate young people. That's what I prefer calling them. If we really pay attention to them and start to see them as human beings and cater to them and have programs for them, that will make them feel that, oh, we are not forsaken, not forgetting by our people. And they begin to see what the society means for them. I'm sure they will have to turn around. We have Bishop now on this program. He told us how he related to the Zogos, the unfortunate young people, and how they responded by the response to him. This one need love. Okay, they have their problems. Yes, they are wayward, but they have needs. They are human beings, for God's sake. Let there be programs that will really reach out to them so that they see that, oh, the society has not forgotten us, so that we can pay attention to society and make sure we make amends and change our ways. That's what it is. Now, everything can be government unless you read. Everything cannot be government, but the government has a big role to play in facilitating these things happening. That's the point I want to make sure we understand. When I say we, our viewing audience and the rest of that, we understand, because we cannot put all the blame on government. No way. We can do self-help projects as well for our society to boom, to improve, and the rest of that. Professor Alaric Tokpa talk about us not taking things for granted. In other words, we cannot fool ourselves. We cannot pretend that these problems do not exist. They do exist. But how we deal with them is what counts. Seriously.
That's true. That's true. And this is how we conclude our broadcast for today. Gracious Hope Livestream Podcast on KMTV. We'll be back here next week, Saturday, the same time, 9 p.m. Liberian time. That is the GMT time zone, 4 p.m. Eastern time, and 3 p.m. Central time, and 1 p.m. Pacific time. Reverend Dede will be here tomorrow with his Bible teaching. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Remember, you got to push your clock ahead, 1 hour ahead.
Yeah.
So midnight, push your clock 1 hour ahead, because here comes spring, my favorite weather all season. Okay, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being with you here, and thank you. And please share our link with your friends, your family, and relatives. Until then, my name is Alexander Red, your host, and of course, Reverend Suarez Dede, the co-host here. And we'll see you again. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a blessed weekend.
God bless you. Bye-bye.